So why can't you trust the Americans? And it's because they're not um, playing smart. They're playing other games. And the reason they're playing those games is that they are invincible in a sense because they are, whoops, they are in a position where their country is sort of, oh man, what the fuck am I doing? Their country is sort of in a position where they can't really be threatened from from the outside. So they have neighbors, and those neighbors are or used to be friends. So you can't really defeat them. So you can sort of afford to be a dumbass. So you can afford to do all kinds of policies that make no sense, and you're going to be absolutely safe from everything because you have so many people around that you're not going to really be short on cash and stuff if you really need it. But it leads to this sort of situation where people just get literally fat and just lazy and especially intellectually lazy, so they don't have to think about anything and everything's just working. And in a big country like this, you have places where people are more intellectual, and then you have places where people are more physical. But these physical people always get things from the intellectual because they're in the same country, so they get mobile phones, they get all kinds of stuff from all these tech people that they can despise if they want to. They'll still get all the tech like the cars and the tractors and fuel refining and everything, and they just get it from elsewhere, from the people they despise. And then it works the other way around as well, because then these people produce a lot of food and things like that. So then these people despise the hillbilly who makes food. So it's a dumb situation overall in a sense, but it's built to in a sense spiral out of control. And the thing that we used to count on, which is not a great thing to count on, is sort of idealism. How do you draw idealism? Just draw a light bulb. I don't know. That makes absolutely no sense. But anyways, so you have this sort of idea. Well, it makes sort of sense. You have this light bulb, this idealism that is being counted on in a sense. So the Americans might be dumb, and they might be intellectually really lazy, and they might not really know what they're doing, and they might be destroying their own society and working counterproductively and do all these things. But some of the people who survive, there's so many of them, they produce great things, and then if they survive the whole process of living amongst idiots and they sort of become part of the system, then they can do a lot. But the problem with this is that if you have dumb idealists, then the ideas can get wildly out of control. So you can make people believe dumb things. Now, this is supposed to be like a chessboard, but just any game board will do. So if you're playing against an intelligent person, they might be your enemy, they might be your friend. You might know them, you might not know them, but if you know that they're playing for victory in a sense, you can predict their moves. And when you can predict the other person's moves, you yourself can make moves far ahead. So you can plan your moves. And planning and having plans that actually come to fruition, having plans that are based on the reality of things, create situations where you can get increasingly complex and beneficial systems where even if both sides are enemies, you are going to know the game that you're playing. So you won't really be surprised. So you can make all kinds of stuff. Now, if you play against or with an idiot, so I'll do the against first. So an idiot might make this move, which already creates a situation where you're like, that's not nearly the best move. That is the worst move you can make. So your plan when you were going to make the best move against the best move might have to be changed. So now you have to make the move that is sort of best overall versus, idiots as well. So you have to think about more, plan for more. So your moves have to be much more careful. So you have to make plans and make your strategies fit into a world where there is an equal sort of power to you who behaves completely belligerently with no sort of planning to what they're doing. And that leaves you, in a sense, vulnerable, because in the real world, you're going to have a player, over here too, and you're going to have a lot of them. So you can't really keep playing this weird game where there's a crazy person with a machete right next to you. And the worst part is that if you're on the same side as, if you ally yourself with, nations like, let's say, Turkey and the U.S., and you rely on them, they're actually they're playing every, let's say, second turn of your pieces. So you have a strategy, and it's a very good one, and it's going to, if not win the game, it's going to create a stalemate, which is, a pretty good thing. You can live stably in this one, and then when the let's say the enemies who want to destroy you, they make a move, and then your friend makes a move like this, that makes no sense, then you're left vulnerable. So you have to remove this person out of your sort of reliance system. So you can't trust them to make any moves because they're going to make the dumb move. They might make a good move, but it's not based on playing the game correctly. They make the move because of whatever insane reasons. That just ruins this whole dynamic. So that's why you can't trust the Americans, and it's the same. It's a different reason why you can't trust the Russians, for example. So the Russians can't be trusted because they will make these moves. They will make generally, the best moves, but then they will also make moves like this where they create a pawn here and then they put a pawn there. So that is sort of, fourth dimensional or whatever, extra dimensional chess or gameplay where they just manipulate the entirety and they don't play by the rules at all. And then you can't, for the same reason, or it creates the same situation where you cannot trust to make any moves because suddenly this pawn becomes a Russian asset because, corruption exists and so on, especially on large scale like this. So what to sort of do about this is, I guess, you need to, unfortunately, you have places like, not unfortunately you have places like the UN, but unfortunately what you need to do with places like the UN is you need to exclude people. You need to say you're not invited to the party because every time you come to the party, you just, flip tables and throw all the spaghetti on the wall. So it doesn't work like that. So what is the sort of the requirement to be a trustworthy ally is to have a trustworthy system where you know that no matter how crazy, let's say, the people get every now and then, or no matter how crazy their government gets, and no matter how crazy things get in general in the world, you can count on them to mostly make, the right decisions. And they might be slow to make those decisions and things like that, but at least they won't fight against you. They won't fight against rationality. And that means that the UN is now a system that is based on it. They invited like the most corrupt nations in the world into the party, but then they sort of assume that they are going to send their, most uncorrupted people into it. And it just makes zero sense. With countries like, Turkey, it was a different time when they were invited to NATO. So Turkey was about to become, sort of free democracy kind of country. But of course, they can't really handle it because they are a part of a certain religion and ideology and culture that just doesn't function that way. And then you have America, who is like the really pampered child who has everything they want, but then they just can't get anything right because they're always messing things up because they sort of don't have any real world consequences, like for example in Europe where you have this tiny little landmass with um, differing nations and things like that, and then you have this vast steppe where all these Mongols come out of all the time. So it doesn't really, you can't really fuck around and find out in Europe that much, as much as you can in the U.S. But now the U.S. has played a game where um, they have themselves turned all their friends into enemies. So they have decided that they are going to play the game like this. So they are going to have everybody as enemies, and then they say that we are going to sit in this box and we're going to play the game now. And it doesn't make any sense, because if you're not going to make any moves, everybody else is going to make the moves. And we have reached a point where maybe the US has finally fucked around and found out a little bit too much, because they've been on a downward spiral for a very 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 long time. I'd say intellectually, maybe elsewhere as well, but over there it's completely out of control. So now nobody is their friend, and they like it that way, I guess. And it just doesn't make any sense, because at some point, um, they are going to go too far, and I think perhaps that time is now. Goodbye.